Last night, the Boston Celtics beat the Lakers by 32 points, the Lakers' biggest loss of the season. How about this? Kemba Walker, who was 0 for 28 in his career against LeBron, finally gets his first win against the King. Nick, what'd you make of last night?
Great, great win by the Celtics. The Lakers played well for about 90 seconds to open the game, and then were terrible, which is a shame because they played an excellent game against Houston just a couple days ago, a game I was at, without Anthony Davis. Anthony comes back. He's clearly wasn't his full self yesterday, his first game back in a couple weeks. It's a bad loss by LA, though, because they weren't competitive basically from midway through the second quarter until the end of the game when they finally pulled their starters. Great win for Boston after a tough stretch for them. Now, do I think Boston's a championship contender? Absolutely not. It was an outstanding game by them.
I give them a chance for a championship. I do. And we had the 0 for the career stat for Kemba Walker. I think he's one of the more underrated players because he was in Charlotte. I was so happy to see him get out of there and get this opportunity. Clearly an upgrade. You can make the argument about Kyrie's skill set, but clearly from a chemistry standpoint, fitting into what Brad Stevens is selling, it is such a better fit for this team. And I think there's a chance they could surprise and possibly upset the Bucks.
Oh, I would be shocked if the Bucks don't.
But that was a worst case scenario for the Lakers.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the Rockets. They blew a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter to Chris Paul and the OKC Thunder last night. James Harden continues to struggle. Last night, he went a woeful 1 for 17 on three-pointers. Houston has now lost 5 of their last 6 games. Nick, time to worry about the Houston Rockets?
Well, it's certainly concerning. And Harden, after going through a stretch where he was absolutely unstoppable from three, and now he's gone through a couple weeks where he's been miserable, around 20% from three, and he's never going to stop shooting them. So you're going to have these types of nights. I think there have been 6 games in NBA history where a guy missed at least 16 threes, and Harden now has 5 of those 6 games. I had lunch with Daryl Morey Saturday before the Lakers game, a game they lost. And then they lose this one in horrifying fashion. And Daryl seemed a little, I don't want to say concerned, but anxious about how the team had been playing, and now they've played worse in the 2 games since then. You know they'll make a move or 2 at the deadline, but they don't have as much flexibility because they've traded away all those picks in the Chris Paul trade. So this team, for most part, is going to be the team I believe we see after the trade deadline.
Jenna, I did not have lunch with Daryl Morey this past weekend, but I would say it is time to be concerned about this team. I think depth is becoming a real issue for this one. Once you get past the 2 MVPs in Westbrook and Harden, there's not a whole lot there. And if you see one of them struggle the way that Harden is, it presents a very real issue. I think the Celtics have a way better chance to win their Eastern Conference than the Rockets do to win the Western Conference, and a lot of that has to do with the competition and the path to get there. But what I am tired of hearing is the people out there who are Harden critics who are saying, oh, look at that 1 for 17. You know, other great scorers never had that type of night. Like nobody else has had off nights before. That is insane to say that. What I can't appreciate, though, is Harden, after the game last night, going out to get up some looks for 30 minutes just so he could start seeing it go through the hoop. It is a snowball against them right now, but I think they'll fight their way out of it.
All right, moving on to Patrick Mahomes. He's having quite the postseason. 8 touchdowns, 615 passing yards, 0 interceptions. And while the Niners have one of the best defenses in the league, stopping Mahomes is still a tall order. Danny, I'll ask you, do the Niners have enough to overcome Mahomes' greatness?
I think this is such an easy answer, and it's a yes. I mean, I think sometimes we look at this game and we're like, well, the Chiefs are so impressive offensively. You've got this superstar in the making. It's just, this is not the little old 49ers. No. This is a team that was a #1 seed in the NFC. They're a 13-win team. They've got a plethora of talent on both sides of the football. They are well put together. Vegas has it evenly matched at, either a pick 'em or 1-point swing one way or the other. They absolutely have what it takes. And I also think they have a formula that has proven this year to work against this team. Now, it's hard to execute, and the Titans had it for a half, and they couldn't maintain it for 60 minutes. But if you can control the football, limit the amount of times that Mahomes and that offense actually get to score touchdowns, and you can get some sort of production out of your offense, which they clearly have shown the capability to do, they absolutely have. They can pull off this win.
The Niners, I've been wrong on them all year. Before the year, I didn't understand all the Niners hype. Even during their hot start, I said, well, wait, this schedule was so backloaded with 2 games against Seattle, a game against Baltimore, a game against New Orleans. I said, let's see how they do there. And now we're here at the end of the year. They're 15-3. They have not trailed for a second in the postseason. Their 3 losses, they were you could argue, one play away in each of those games. So 3 plays on the season from going undefeated. The overtime loss to Seattle, they obviously could have won. I think a field goal at the gun, they had a chance to win it there. The game against Atlanta that they lost, where Julio Jones is ruled down at the quarter-inch line as time expires, and then it's overturned and called a touchdown. And the game against Baltimore, it's a 4th down failure by San Francisco, followed by a 4th down success from Baltimore that wins that football game. Of course they can beat the Chiefs. Doesn't mean they will, but they do have, to me, a more credible path than the Packers would have, certainly than the Saints would have, because the Niners' game plan is not going to be to try to beat the Chiefs at their style of football. They're not going to try to go outscore the Chiefs. They're going to try to attack Patrick Mahomes, yes, with blitzes, but also with four men rushing. And we have seen if you can do that in Super Bowl history, you can, if you can do it successfully, you can really stymie all-time great offenses. And the Niners also, they haven't lost a game this year when their defense is fully healthy. Remember, after the first half of the year, Quan Alexander, Jaquiski Tartt, D Ford, one of those 3 guys or multiple of those guys missed time until the postseason. Well, they started the year 8-0, and they haven't lost in the postseason. So when their defense has been fully functional, they have been a dominant team. This was, as a Chiefs fan, the one team on the NFC bracket I didn't want to see in the Super Bowl because of how many problems they present, even though they were the one team on the NFC side of the bracket that had the worst quarterback. It's a testament to their coaching, Danny, their offensive line, their running game, and their defense, that you could have the worst quarterback of the teams that made the playoffs in the conference and still be the scariest, but I think that's exactly what they are.
The recipe, so I mentioned the Colts-Texans back-to-back weeks. They controlled the time of possession and dominated that one. The other loss was in Tennessee. It was Mahomes' first game back, and I think all we're going to remember is this Titans, the way this game unfolded. But if you look back at the last one, Derrick Henry had over 180 yards rushing. They were able to go toe-to-toe point-wise. They ended up winning 35-32. And in that game, Patrick Mahomes had over 440 yards passing in that game. Was awesome. I don't know if you can count on that. You've got to limit his touches to where it's minimize it as much as possible, which presents some problems for a defense that's ranked 26th against the rush. And you've got a team who likes to run the football. That, to me, is going to be the deciding factor. Can the Chiefs' defense get off the field to get it back in the offense's hands?
Isn't this going to come down to who sets the tone? Is it going to be played 49ers ball or Chiefs ball, and who can do it more successfully earlier?
Just quickly, that is the one spot I think the Chiefs have an edge. If the Chiefs fall down, they're not the Titans or Texans, but they clearly have a belief they can come from behind. If the Niners fall down 10 points to the Chiefs, then they have to get out of exactly the way they want to play, and I don't know if they can overcome that.
All right, let's break there. Coming up, do the Patriots need Tom Brady more than Tom Brady needs the Patriots? Next up, First Things First.